Yo, what's going on, everybody? It is your boy Earth Mac, the mad scientist, and today we have another artiste here to do another drawing for you guys. I know last week or so we had Michaela on the show, and Michaela drew a Jace from the Ginyu Force. Because she heard what I said, saying that Jace is my favorite Ginyu from the Ginyu Force from Dragon Ball Z, and there is another artist that I met at an amazement. Her name is Leann Schmitt, otherwise known as Neo Illustrator. How are you today, ma'am?
I'm doing great.
And you know what's funny? That I asked her about doing the show with me, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna have to ask you questions while you draw. So I'm like, I love doing that. I'm gonna go ahead and do that. So glad to have you on the show. And I'm gonna just bring people to what they want to see, and that is the drawing. So, as you get started with this, I'm gonna ask you, what got you into, like drawing and animating?
Oh my goodness. The very first thing that got me into drawing was actually my mom.
Really?
Yes, when I was really little, my mom would draw me princesses from like Disney movies. So we'd watch Cinderella and everything. And do you remember like the TVs with the big backings and you could stick paper to them with static?
Yeah.
So she would do that for me and I would watch her do that. And I was like, this is so cool. So to kind of like, to pay my mom back, I'd be like, I want to learn how to draw pictures and princesses for you. So I did. I started learning to draw that way. And that's kind of my introduction into drawing, was like you're drawing princesses for me. I want to draw princesses for you.
So were you self-taught or did you go to art school too? Oh, you are self-taught?
For most of my time drawing, I was self-taught. I didn't have classes until I had art classes in school, but they were very they're very minimal in how much they would teach us for animation or anime or anything like that. And anime was not super respected at the time, so I got a lot of here's how you draw a circle, here's how you draw, here's how you shade some fruit. So I didn't have any formal training until I got to college, and I did go to art college. I went to SCAD. Which was where I got kind of fast tracked through animation.
Oh, okay. So for the listener, SCAD, what is that?
SCAD is the Savannah College of Art and Design, which sounds super hoity. But yeah, it's the art college I went to. It's in Savannah, Georgia. And I majored in 2D animation with a minor in sequential art and drawing. So I have a degree that says I can hold a pencil pretty well.
Wow. Okay. So I asked Michaela this last week. Now I'm gonna ask you. She did say the biggest benefit of her being at the Art Institute is the friends and the boyfriend that she met. So she said, but as far as anything else that she learned, it wasn't super extensive. Most of the things that she learned, it was mostly self-taught. Would you say the same thing?
I think for all art schools, I think you kind of have to take what you can. They aren't going to be able to teach you from being basically from ground zero to Walt Disney. I think I made a lot of good connections, and I also found my boyfriend there. So I've been with my boyfriend for 5 years. But I think the biggest thing that SCAD taught me was how to carry myself and to have this confidence in myself so that I don't get taken advantage of in situations where I want to get an indie job or an industry job too. So I know kind of what I'm worth and what to expect so that I'm not mistreated. I think that's the biggest thing SCAD taught me, which is a lot bigger than you would expect it to be, especially when you're doing freelance, because there are people who are just trying to basically get stuff from you for free, which is very frustrating because they want your all, but they don't want to give you anything back, which is very frustrating.
Yeah, which leads into the next question I have, like, because I saw you at a con, so clearly I know that's not your first convention that you attended, or you actually presented your artwork at. How did you approach like your first convention up to your most recent one? Like, was there anything that you learned along the way? Or any?
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I bumped my head a lot. I've only been doing it for about 2 years, so I'm in no way like a veteran compared to some of my buddies, but I learned quite a bit. In my first convention, I didn't even know how to turn like tips onto my card reader, but I had a very sweet table neighbor who was like, "Oh, you need to do this," and like, "Hey, consider this for pricing. Consider doing this, this, and this," which I was super, super thankful. He's an absolute sweetheart, and I was very lucky to have him as my like first table neighbor. Because I've had some going forward that were not as nice, which is you can never like know what's going on in someone's life, so I never want to be like, I can't believe they were mean the whole weekend. But it's one of those like, hey, I get it, like we all have to be up kind of early. I'm a little grumpy too, but I'm trying not to take it out on like the security or like the showrunners or my table neighbors. I try and keep very positive at shows.
Gotcha. And as far as like your pricing for artwork, I know I'm gonna ask every artist this, because I'm a strong proponent. Because I'm not an artist, but I'm a strong proponent of when you charge for certain artwork, it is not just the artwork; it's the time that has been put in. Because there's some patrons that say, "Oh, well, that's too high. I can't believe it's that much," or this, that, and the third. But how do you approach the pricing of your artwork as far as like selling it and doing commissions?
It's kind of hard to say. We started ours a lot lower, and it kind of came from this place of like, how can I expect someone to pay for my work? Which just kind of came with the like being very new into doing shows and having to ask. Like a lot of that like lowball pricing earlier on when I was doing stuff, even when I did commissions a lot younger, came from this idea of how do I expect someone to give me money, which is the very like kind of core of a lot of artists. We kind of upped some of the pricing since we started, just because it was the idea that I was putting so much time into these, and then I would see that kind of like end of the show like numbers, and I'd go, it was just kind of a big like, oh man. So it was maybe if we bump them up $5, this won't hurt my soul as much. So we've gotten to like a comfortable medium, and we've kind of looked around and gone to other shows and gone like, okay, these are how much these guys are pricing. We kind of feel the paper they use and go, okay, they have this kind of paper, they do this. Well, I'm not comfortable asking for that much, but I'd be more comfortable in between those two numbers. Or like, oh, my friend does this and my other friend does this. We'll kind of find a nice medium. So going to shows has kind of helped figure out pricing and doing all of that, because charging hourly, I think anyone charging hourly in the convention space, everything would be much more expensive.
Indeed. And so I also noticed this, I wouldn't say just animation, but I have noticed this in past conventions that I attended and did press for. So there's a little bit of a discourse. I see it mostly online, and Michaela says she's seen it most online. The AI art versus, regular digital art and, paper art. How do you feel about AI art being in you guys' space? I personally don't like AI art in convention spaces. I think AI can be a very useful tool in streamlining things. Absolutely, it's a very useful tool. A lot of big companies use it so that they can finish films or even like finish anything. Yeah. But I feel like using like
using a generative program that is just sampling from other people's work takes away that wonderful part of art, which is the human element. If you just wanted a photograph, you would take a photograph. But if you want a still life, if you want a painting, you get a painting. You don't ask a computer to paint for you, because it'll just give you, it's just a picture. It will just give you a perfect picture. You want that human element. But I think in convention spaces, I don't understand fully, but I get why people do it. It's just very frustrating and kind of beats down, especially smaller artists who are seeing it take away sales and take away jobs, which can be very frustrating. I see more of the job fight, like it's taking away jobs on Twitter, than I do fully in art spaces, other than them taking the booth. But I've also seen convention runners, the moment they see it, they do come take it down, or they do go, hey, stop that. You can't do that. And try and find some kind of solution, which is good. They're being proactive. But it can be disheartening.
Yeah. So, you know, what's funny is that Michaela did say the same thing. Like it entering you guys' space as far as convention is concerned, it's like, yeah, you're gonna take that away. Because I'm a strong proponent of, like, if I do see AI art, right, I tend not to get it, because I'd rather have artwork by individuals that, you know, draw it digitally, or or do live art like by hand and stuff like that, because I do feel like it does take away from you guys' craft, because like any Joe Schmo on the street can say, hey, I'm gonna learn AI art, and boom. And I've seen some places where and this is an artist named by Ozzy, and he draws like phenomenal like Dragon Ball style art and stuff like that. But I've seen somewhere where someone was trying to sell that art, and it just AI generated what he did. And I was like, oh man, I'm like, is this growing into something that's going to be an issue? Because just like you said, some people use AI like to finish like certain like movie scenes or show scenes, or like in the future, do you feel like it's going to be a bigger issue, or you feel like it's already being nipped in the bud like early on?
I wouldn't say getting nipped in the bud. I think there's still a lot of people who don't quite understand why it's a problem, and they're just kind of using it to kind of cut the middleman out of the artist element, and just go, see, I did it, but not understanding where a lot of that, like, the purpose of an artist comes in. You aren't just paying them to put silly little lines on a piece of paper. You're paying for their expertise and their background and kind of where they come from to kind of help. My biggest thing is when they talk about it in films. I'm a storyboard artist and an animator, so I hear about they're taking our jobs a lot. And if you remove that human element, you remove the joy and love of animation. You remove the ability to tailor animations to the eye. Animation isn't just something moving, it's tailoring something to convince the audience that it's real and not just a bunch of lines on paper. AI can't do that. It doesn't understand that's the purpose. That's where kind of, to be an animation nerd for a little bit, that's why sometimes when you see rotoscoping, there's kind of, it's missing that snappiness, jumpiness of like an animation. Think Akira, think any of those. Bikes don't tend, like bicycles and like motorcycles don't move like that. Surprise. They don't really move like that, but you feel it. You can feel these animators and feel all of that expertise. But AI doesn't know how to do that because it's just spitting out what it's fed. It's just like, oh, okay, here's these images here. It's just doing that. It doesn't have that ability to make decisions and give input and to kind of create something bigger and more like amazing, because it doesn't have a background. It's not a person.
Right. And you mentioned earlier, you say storyboarding, like you do storyboarding. Can you expand on that?
Yes. Just my career, or just like what I do?
Oh, both.
Okay, so I have a minor in storyboarding that I got from school. Right out of school, I did storyboarding for the Aqua Teen Hunger Force movie, Plantasm. So I did that right out of school. What else did I do? And then I stopped doing industry work because I had to move. I moved up to Philly. And I've just been kind of doing animations and animatics over on my YouTube because I really like telling stories, but it is very hard to do a full finished, like 6 to 12-minute animation all on your own. So I kind of cut the middleman for myself because I'd have to do all the editing and all the extra voice and stuff. And I do animatics. So they're basically kind of my keyframes for an animation. But that's what I tend to do. That's what most of my YouTube is animatics, that I pick a funny song, I make funny videos to it, and I call it a day. That's what I do.
And you talked a good bit at Animazement, and you mentioned a webtoon series, and you have your own webtoon series. Can you expand on that?
Yes. So I started a webtoon series about 2 years ago called Covenant 13. It actually started with what's it called? Webtoons doing a call to action, which was like a contest where you would submit a chapter of a webtoon, like an action-based webtoon. And we we had heard about it, and the next day we were moving from Savannah, Georgia up to Philly. And the deadline was in 2 months. So in 1 month, the first chapter was written. And then in that whole second month, I illustrated the first 100 pages. So the first chapter of Covenant 13 is 100 pages, webtoon pages, which I'm finding out is a lot. I wasn't really in the comic book circuit very much. I still am not really, so I don't know all the lingo and I don't know everybody. So I'm kind of very green in the comic book world. Even though I do a lot of comics, I do fan comics, I do my own webtoon. So it's kind of, there's a little dissonance that comes with that. But the entirety of Covenant 13 is Conan Marwood, who I'm drawing right now, who's the last of a fiery bloodline who is seeking revenge on the angel-like deities that run their world, for all of them having killed his family and his bloodline.
Oh.
Yeah.
So this is more like a shonen style.
Yes.
Webtoon. Okay.
Yeah, I'm not super good at slow-paced slice of life because I get very like, okay, come on, let's go. I get very like, I like action scenes. I love action scenes. I love fight scenes. So, I will admit, slice of life is kind of my kryptonite.
Everybody has their kryptonite. Everybody has something that, I'd rather not deal with. Well, did you, when you created Covenant 13, were there any inspirations that you kind of got the concept from, or was it just like straight out of your head? It's like, yeah, this is what it's going to be.
It's very funny because Conan was an old like character of mine from when I was in high school. And I've just kind of had these little IPs of mine forever, and I had done nothing with any of them to that point. And we like my boyfriend and I had been like juggling with ideas of like who we draw, what will we do, and we finally went like, oh, like Conan doesn't have anything technically, like I'm not super tied down to anything that I've drawn for him at that point. So we kind of just picked him out of the bag, specifically, like he got picked out of a bag. But the world of Covenant 13 is loosely D&D based. We like kind of using some D&D words to kind of bridge the gap for some of the fantasy elements, so that we're not scaring people with just like crazy brand new words and like concepts. So that it's not like, oh, this is a blurb, and I go, oh, okay. So they can kind of come at this with a little bit more of a knowledge of, oh, I know what a mimic is. Oh, but you're doing it differently. And kind of just stylistically, Akira is always my inspiration for everything, but it's because I just love Akira so much. It's like my favorite movie, almost comfort film, but weird to say when you know how Akira kind of ends, but like comfort film.
Yeah.
But
and that's okay though, because everybody has their own comfort film, and no matter if it's like a good movie or series or a terrible movie or series or something like that. For me, which is funny though, I'm pretty sure you knew this already, but like Akira, the movie that we saw and
Mhm.
everybody else saw, that's just the first part.
Yeah, I have the books. I love those books. Oh my goodness. I collect manga that I really like.
Uh-huh.
And I might not even know what the series is. I kind of just go into Barnes and Nobles. I knew about Akira though, but I go into Barnes and Nobles and I will just flip through manga, and I will find, like, if I really like how like an artist does like their paneling, or how I really like if how they draw their magic effects, I will
Mhm.
pick up the book and use it to study, and I'll dog ear a lot of the pages. Um, so that I can get this idea of how other comic artists tackle certain things, so that I'm
Mhm.
not sitting here floundering going like, I don't know how to draw ice. I don't know how to do this. It also means that I'm studying when I read manga.
Yeah.
So I can kind of, it's like a twofer.
You know what's funny? Like going back to now, when you said like things that you like to draw, is there any particular thing that is like difficult for you to draw? I know I asked Michaela the same thing, and she said backgrounds. You
Oh,
know, some people say hands, feet, eyes. Do you have like a thing that is a little bit challenging for you to draw?
I know I'm a little bit challenged at drawing animals just because I have never had a pet, so
Mhm.
I've never had that. Like, I don't understand a lot of their mannerisms.
Yeah.
Um, but I kind of just like drawing everything, and if I've never drawn it before, I take it as like a fun challenge to learn how to, and how to adapt it into my style.
Yeah.
And it's just, I think it's fun. I really do like backgrounds. I didn't at one point, which drives people crazy because they go, "How did you do it?" I went, "I drew backgrounds a lot to start drawing backgrounds." They go, "But how did you do it?" I'm like, "I just started drawing."
So, like backing up, like Akira, right?
Mhm.
For me, and I'm gonna ask you, do you feel the same way? I want the other two parts to be animated, but not
Yeah. Okay. So
current gen.
it's yeah. Oh, I would love it in its original hand drawn style, but I already know the numbers that would cost, so I
Yeah.
understand that it is not a possibility.
I mean,
But man, can I
technically,
dream?
technically it is put it like this. So, like with Marvel movies, like the budget is like nuts for it. So I feel
Oh yeah.
like if they can break the budget for that, I feel like they can do a budget for an animated film where you have animators that can actually hand draw it. Not saying Disney or whatever, but you can have the budget to do Akira like it's meant to be seen and fluid, like the original Akira um movie, and that way the
Mhm.
other two parts can get animated. I have yet to find the other two parts, like in English, like the English manga style. So
It's a difficult find. It's the same like difficult find like trying to find good the Max books
mhm.
that are in like good quality. I'm kind of on the search to find like stuff for the Max. I just recently watched the MTV animated series for it,
Mhm.
um, and I loved it. I think it's really cool. It's very weird, which I love weird. I love weird and scary. No one thinks that I would, but I do really enjoy weird and scary. I'm not known for my weird and scary, but maybe someday. We're working on it though.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Most definitely. Most definitely. So anime. So
Mhm.
what was your was Akira your introduction into anime, or was there any other anime that came first?
Oh my goodness. My first anime ever was DN Angel. It was just an episode on like the anime channel from like on Charter TV when they used to have like specialty shows and like
Mhm.
specialty channels for like a little bit of the month. So I first watched DN Angel, which is just one of those weird. I never finished it, so I never even knew how it ended. I just remember watching it going like, wow, what's going on? And then my
Wow.
first manga was Shogo Chara. So I had a lot of like more cutesy anime introduced me first. Sailor Moon. I kind of got all of those first, And as I kind of started delving in myself, I got into like Akira, and um I got really into Dragon Ball. I was super into Dragon Ball for most of high school, and it wasn't cool to like anime at that point. So I was the kid who just really liked Dragon Ball.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm from the Midwest, so I was already kind of like, I was in the minority group already. So that and liking anime, I kind of set myself up as a loner.
You know what's funny though? I feel like some of us old heads that, like, you are the first. You should be honored. You are the first person that says their introduction to anime was DN Angel. Like, so I was not expecting that. I was not expecting that at all. So, and like anime, to the listeners, anime wasn't as mainstream as it is now. Like at all. Like you could find anime on Disney Plus now. So it was.
I know. You can buy anime merch at Walmart. I'm so jealous.
Mm-hmm. But see, we were the weird ones, right? It's like, nah, we like anime, this and the third. Like, oh, nah, you're a weirdo and all this other stuff. But now look at it. Like, it's crazy.
Remember at one point that I was like one of 10 Asian kids in my class, to illustrate. I was one of 10. And I was the one who liked anime. So people, when Netflix had just become a thing, and you could still mail in your Netflix stuff, someone had come up and asked me permission to watch anime. Oops, my thing disconnected. My school. So I was one of 10 Asian kids in my school. And at one point, because anime was so new to them, that they had seen it on Netflix and asked me permission to watch it. And I was like, I don't control your Netflix account. It's okay. And it was Ouran High School Host Club. So it wasn't bad.
Yeah.
It wasn't, I mean, yeah, it was just, it's very silly. It was not super common.
Yeah. Yeah.
I remember only seeing anime merch mentions.
Yeah. Like the growth of anime is like crazy. I credit Toonami for that. Even though anime was out before Toonami, but I feel like Toonami did a phenomenal job in advertising anime and marketing anime and picking the right anime for, you know, people of our age range like to actually watch. So yeah, but back to you. You said DN Angel was your start. And then you gravitated towards Akira. Is there other anime that actually stick out to you that you can just say, hey, I'm going to go back and watch it?
Let me think. Oh my goodness, that's hard. There's one that I really like that I've seen more recently, but I think from when I was younger, it's just like anime that everyone kind of likes now. So it's not anything special anymore. Like I really like Dragon Ball. There's new Dragon Ball stuff coming out all the time now. When I was very convinced that, what was it, GT? I get the GX of one, but Yu-Gi-Oh and GT get confused because they both had the G and a weird kind of divergence from what I'm used to. But I remember seeing those and like I was like, that's the end of it all. And then I think when there was a Dragon Ball movie that came out and Xeno was the voice of Gamma 2, I think. And I remember sitting there going like, I never thought I would see anime in a theater with everyone else. That wasn't like Ghibli month. Ooh, guys, look at Studio Ghibli stuff. Ooh.
So, I'm gonna ask you this: do you prefer the older anime art style, or do you prefer how anime looks today?
I am always a sucker for older anime, but it's because I really like the grain that comes with it. That could just be the nostalgia bit of me talking, but I think it had just a different life to it. I appreciate where like anime and animation is at this point, because it means we can do like really cool stuff and not be very destructive about it. A lot of the animation techniques and styles that would just like blow people's minds, were very destructive. So they would be hard to replicate. But I'm always a sucker for older, grainier, thin-lined, lanky, kind of humanly, more like realistically proportioned kind of Satoshi Kon kind of style. I do really like the normal human weird variety face comparatively to just bright pink hair.
Yeah.
But that's just a personal preference.
Do you feel like the older animation style conveyed emotions better, and like the shadowing and lighting and stuff like that?
That's hard to say. I think a lot of it felt weightier. To me, it felt weightier, and some of the things felt more intentional.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like right now there's a bit of a give and take where we're kind of losing. We're losing some of the masters because they're passing away, who just kind of understood that every movement in animation has a purpose. It wasn't just movement for movement's sake. So there's points where I am a little disheartened that I feel some animation is kind of losing that purpose and focus of the character and that extra bit of life where you can go, oh no, he wouldn't move like that. Oh no, he would do this. So I think before it was just a little bit more specific. I think the movements were more specific to the characters and more true to the characters. I think a little bit now we're kind of getting stuck in motion is motion. If it moves, that's a win. But that's something I can comment about Disney, and that's about it. It's my Disney critique for the day.
Disney critique for the day. I do agree with like the older animation style is more gritty. You can convey emotions better, and like when we talk about Dragon Ball, you know, I think, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, I think one of the things that drew you to Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z is the grittiness art style of it.
Yeah, it did. It truly did. I remember watching it. I don't watch Dragon Ball as much anymore because I call it like the shiny style or like the rubber doll style because they're very shiny now. And like
Dragon Ball
DVDs
Super.
Stuff,
Yeah,
they're just very shiny, and it's not my favorite thing. They're very shiny and they're very rubbery, and they remind me of toys. So I don't like it as much comparatively to the older ones where you could still kind of see the lines. You see the lines boil a little bit more, and you just kind of got this idea of the weightiness. It was very weighty at that point. Mm-hmm. That could also just be because the story wasn't as developed at the point. So you're like, oh my God, is he actually dead? Oh my goodness, what are we going to do? How are we going to get out of this? Are they going to find the Dragon Balls? What are we going to do? Like,
yeah, I do. You know what? I never could figure out a perfect description for Dragon Ball Super, their art style, and rubbery and shiny is the perfect description of that, because you know, even though the story is really good, I dare say some of the story is better than some of the stories in Z as far as like continuity and stuff making sense or whatever the case would be. But I feel like with the fighting they were doing, I feel like there should be more at stake physically, like body wise. You know, it don't depict it as much. It's not as gritty as Z was, and And do you think also with how animation is now, is that just a quicker, faster way to get things done versus the old style?
That might have just come with the advancement of technology. I don't think it's anyone's fault. I think it's the advancement of technology and the style that's naturally kind of born from that. Mm-hmm. So I don't think there's any I don't think they mean anything by it. I do just think it's a product of technology at that point. At its given point, and it's a reflection of that, because editing and everything can account for like a lot of beautiful light work now compared to kind of it's a flat color and then you have to like manufacture a flashbang on screen, or like the solar flare. Like you have to do those kind of within an understandable realm with your technology at that point. So if they're just like shining a light at the camera really quick and you're like, oh my goodness, compared to they can edit it fully now. And that's kind of probably where they could do a lot more pretty post-processing compared to before, because the computers can handle it. There are easier ways to do it. So I think it's just a byproduct of the technology.
Oh, okay. Fully understand that. So as far as like comics, so comic books. So like with comics, were there any particular comic books that you come across and like, yes, that's phenomenal artwork, or do you have like a favorite comic that you read currently?
I truthfully, like traditional DC and like Marvel, I do not read a lot of comic books because I'm kind of so far behind comparatively to everyone else that like finding the best place to start is very difficult. So there is that bit, but I have a very special place in my heart for Superman. Because my last name is Schmitt, and my dad used to sign the little Superman S on all of my stuff.
Yeah. So
that we could find it. So I have a lot of Superman stuff at my house, and I remember watching the live action movies, and I was just I remember being in my basement watching them and just being enthralled by this charming guy who dresses like a dork and then is this alien and having to deal with all of this and understanding humans, which I thought his story was really enthralling. But I'm so far behind in everything in comics in general, but I am fascinated by how different people can make the same character. Batman alone, my boyfriend collects McFarlane Batman kind of series toys, and he's like, oh well, this is Earth something Batman, and this is his backstory, but this is him if his parents didn't die, and this is him as a samurai because Alfred taught him like to be a samurai, and I think it's it's fantastic seeing all these different takes throughout like Marvel and DC and how they're able to change the same character and kind of show all these different like what if, which is really cool, because I think I like that a lot about American comics comparatively to like manga, because usually manga it's just what's going to happen next, how unrealistically is this going to happen next, and I got to kind of relearn all this new character who's kind of under this same umbrella of like, oh, they're like a NEET, or oh, they're an otaku, so you can kind of come into it knowing a general category for your main character and then moving forward and go, I kind of get who they are. But I think it's really interesting that American comics just go, it's Batman, you know him. But what if his parents lived? What about this? And you're like, that is interesting.
Yeah.
So it's not reintroducing the same guy with a different backstory compared to just kind of giving me a general idea of like a personality trait and then expecting me to go like, oh, so he's kind of like this guy, but he's different.
Okay. And like I'm a huge like comic book reader, and I really like DC and Marvel and stuff like that, but mostly Marvel these days. But I will say that DC's approach to storytelling versus Marvel's, approach to storytelling are different. So if you ever look to get back into comics, like, so Superman is your favorite. So if you want to get into Superman, then I would say, go to your local comic book store, and like they can get you in the right direction on this is where you can start watching, reading Superman. There's World Finest, where Superman and Batman are in a team up, and there's like a comic book run where they are in a team up. And so for me, I'm pro Batman versus Superman. However, when I was growing up, Lois and Clark, The Adventures of Superman, was like my favorite live series. Have you seen that?
Yes.
Yeah. So okay. So off the miniseries of Superman that there was, like from Max Fletcher all the way up to current, what would you say is your favorite version of him that's on TV?
I don't know. That's hard. That's so hard.
Okay, I can narrow it down. Live action.
Oh,
Series.
it's Reed Richards. It's because it's a special place in my heart.
Okay. Okay. Wait, which series is that?
That's the first like live action movies.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I really love that portrayal of him because I think for like shows and media, I think they did a very good job making him a believable dork, but making him huge.
Yeah.
A like 6'2" dork, and not very small or like this kind of reasonable sized kind of like buff guy who hides it under a suit. I think they found this big guy, and it's the how do we make him look non-threatening when he's big as a house compared to everyone else. So I really like that, but it's also my nostalgia because I remember watching it like coming home right like from the Blockbuster and renting the movies and sitting down. So yeah, it's my rose tinted glasses.
So you say like Superman 2, and Quest for Peace and stuff like okay, the 1978. Okay, I understand. I fully understand. So now, go ahead.
Oh, the there's the anime version of them. What, Adventures of Superman? Is the one?
Yes.
Is that the new one?
Yes.
I think he's very cute in that too. I do have a bone to pick with a little bit of the show itself. That's because I feel like Metropolis is very empty.
When everything goes down.
Well, yeah, in the entirety of like the Adventures of Superman, there aren't really cars on the street, and there's not really people or civilians, unless there's something that's already gone wrong and there's like 5 people standing around, which I think takes away the scope of a city being in peril if there's like 5 people.
That's true.
Like, oh, there's 5 people and no cars. You go back and watch like the Adventures of Superman, there's like no cars on the street. There's no parked cars, there's no really cars driving around, there's not like a bunch of people in the bodega, there's not a bunch of like people walking around in a big metropolitan city at noon, which is I just think is weird. Yeah. And it makes me go like, is he saving anybody, or are these people like putting on a play and he just doesn't know?
Yeah. You know what? I never noticed that. I never paid attention to that. Now I got to go back and watch it again and like notice like the backdrops, because you're right. You know, the less people, the severity of the situation, you know, is dwindled a little bit. Was lessened, you know, a little bit. So
if you rewatch that first season and you kind of see the lack of cars, unless it's a flipped over car, like a car that is in peril. There's a shot on like the bridge and all the cars are there. There's like hundreds of cars, but the bridge is about to go down. So you're like, is this where everyone's been? Just in traffic for the whole season, just sitting on the bridge? I just got such a kick out of that. Where I was like, oh man, the whole city's been in traffic this whole time. The biggest threat to this city isn't Lex Luthor, it's traffic. It's a bad turnpike. Like,
so with that being said, now that I got your live action out of the way, like which one is your favorite animated version of Superman?
You're gonna make me pick. You're gonna make me pick.
I gotta make you pick, because I'm guessing in your head right now. As soon as you said that, you said like, I'm in my mind, I'm thinking it's a tie between 2, but yeah, you gotta pick.
I can't. Which 2 do you think it is?
Which 2 do I think it is?
So sorry.
No, it's fine. Maybe Max Fletcher Superman, or the Bruce Timm Superman. Am I hitting the nail on the head, or am I way off the mark?
I hate to say that you fully got me, dead to right. So
for real?
Yeah, I can't like. Again, I can't pick. I can't pick. And like some of my teachers in SCAD, because I took a couple sequential classes. They ended up showing us a lot of those, especially when I was like as those for like animated like superhero stuff
Yeah.
for as like examples. I'm like, oh, cool. So again, I'm like, I can't pick because we had those and we got to like sketch like drawings of their hands and we would draw off of them as references. It was really cool. So again, they're really cool. How am I supposed to pick? They're both really cool.
Yeah. Yeah. See. Right. So on my show, like on Thursdays, we do have like a top 10 list of things. So right now we on the video games, right?
Mhm.
So this past week we did top 10 Sega Genesis video games, like in our opinion. Like my top 10 and my co-host top 10, to the point where, I had pages of games and I had to pick 10 out of that. And I felt bad that some was not on that top 10 list because there's some that I played religiously. But I would give you my Superman story. I was first introduced to Superman like as a cartoon for Max Fletcher because I used to have the VCR tapes. And so I used to watch them all the time. And I think it's the one where I think it's like this fast moving train and they kept robbing banks. And I forgot the name of that episode, but you know exactly what I'm talking about. So
Yeah.
that one, there was another one where this mad scientist, I think he wanted to destroy the city and they put him in, Superman ended up putting him in jail and the lightning bolts was like hitting Superman. He was fighting through it. And he was punching through the lightning and stuff like that. So that kind of captivated me a little bit. So, okay. You're going to reach through this screen and try to choke me when I say this. So with the Superman as a character as a whole, I always thought he was a little boring to me. Mainly,
I get it. I get it. I totally get it.
Okay.
I'm not. I won't jump down your throat for it. The reason I like it so much, the reason I like him so much. One, we had Superman. I'm from Illinois, so
Yeah.
I'm Superman. Illinois was a place. It's also because I think it's a really interesting. I think it's an interesting idea that a lot of people aren't super good at getting for his like normal life, but
Yeah.
he is very overpowered. Like he's very overpowered. Like he's just good at mostly everything except being around one rock. I think him having to act like a human is my favorite bit. Which a lot of people tend to forget. So
Yeah.
I forget what this was like a comic panel that was shown to me. So it was so out of context, and then I fully forget where it's from. He like Clark Kent is getting hit by a hammer, like
Yeah.
a big comical hammer, and it's him going, "Oof, ow, oh!" Like it's just like, "Ooh." He has no idea how to be in pain. He's just kind of this little weirdo. And I think my favorite bit, why I like the live action so much, is because he's just kind of a weirdo. He's just kind of a little out of touch, and I think that's kind of funny. But he's kind of boring. he's kind of boring. I'll give you that.
What's funny though, Lois and Clark, I think it did a very good job at showing how Clark is as a human and how Clark is as Superman, because I think Dean Cain kind of hit the nail on the head when playing the character, because it showed more of him being a reporter with Lois.
Yeah.
And then he, obviously the chemistry between Dean Cain and Terry Hatcher was great, and how they eventually end up together. But you saw Superman close to the end of the show, and you see him using his powers just a little bit, but doing it on the sneak tip. People got his back turned, he might blew his breath out and shut a door or laser vision something, and nobody don't notice. And I think to me, Lois and Clark is the best live action series outside of Superman and Lois. Yes. But I do like Lois and Clark. I used to watch that religiously whenever it came on. But I'm a huge X-Men guy. Is there anybody in Marvel that you gravitate towards, or was Superman the end all be all for you?
I had the most kind of connection with Superman. A lot of times, for where I lived, I was already getting enough flack from liking anime, and then I was kind of getting gatekept out of comics. So I was like, this is not a fight I want to have to fight, guys. I'm just gonna kind of intake what media I can, and then that's gonna be it. Whatever the blockbuster can provide me on this fun afternoon, that's what I'm gonna do. I think there's a lot of really cool, like there's a lot of very cool, like I just think there's a lot of cool designs, and they're all drawn like well. There's a lot of really cool stories about like DC and Marvel both have really cool stories. I wish I'd been exposed to them a lot younger. You can never go wrong with Spider-Man. Spider-Man's just cool. He's just neat. He moves really cool. As an animator, it's the like, oh, he's so cool. I can't wait to draw someone swinging through a city. How's that gonna work? So
Yeah,
I think like can never go wrong with a Spider-Man.
I think Todd McFarlane did a very good job of Spider-Man when he was actually drawing him out.
Todd McFarlane, I don't have as much like exposure to the shows, but since my boyfriend collects Todd McFarlane figures, he also loves Spawn, and I've seen a lot of the Todd McFarlane Spawn artwork. Oh my gosh, it's gorgeous. Like I need to kind of just sit. I guess that's the first thing I need to do. I need to sit down and like just intake more Spawn artwork and just like read it and just. It's so beautiful. It's that like it's the line work. I love the line work of McFarlane because it's there's so it's the blackout kind of areas. I love that style. I'm not very a thin line person, so I do like those big blackout areas, as you can see. But yeah, I remember. I've seen a lot of Spawn stuff, but it's because we have a lot of the McFarlane toys just out of frame. They're kind of just barely there.
Okay. Like as far as like Spawn is concerned, I know I have like volume 1 and 2, like when Spawn first came out, and that's when he was like very hands-on, with Spawn. And there's a documentary that I've seen is about Image Comics, and Todd McFarlane was one of the ones that left Marvel and they went over to DC Comics, and they basically told them, hey, just because we left Marvel don't mean we're coming to you. We're starting our own thing. And that team of artists and creators created like the second biggest comic book company next to Marvel. Like they actually made it over DC. Like it was crazy. And Spawn was one of them. My favorite artist though is Jim Lee. Like I really do like his art style, like with X-Men, especially in the 90s. And I think it's his run was like still the biggest selling comic book run of all time, like just because of the artwork that he's done. So I really do like it. So, but anywho, back to you. Video games. Were you consider yourself a gamer back then, or?
No, okay, so for complete transparency, I am technically like a comfy video gamer. I don't like I used to play a lot of Harvest Moon. I played a lot of farming games. I am very good at very bad GameCube games, if that illustrates anything for you. I'm trying to get more into it now.
Okay.
And kind of make up for time lost, but there's just like with work and everything, it's kind of hard to. I'm really into Hades, like Hades and Hades 2. That was my first roguelike, and I was hooked. I played it when I was working, like right out of college. I was super stressed. I had 3 art jobs at the same time, so I was very stressed. So that was like my little bit of stress relief, was playing Hades. And I would just sit at home, and I would just like count down the time and be like, I need to go. I can't wait for the end of the day so I can play Hades. It's very sweet because my first sponsored video on YouTube is for, oh my gosh, Netflix games for Hades on iOS, which is just like, that was just a really cool, like, I was nerding out when they asked me, and they were like, do you have any ideas? I was like, I have so many ideas, and I listed off a bunch of stuff. They're like, not okay, too many, stop.
Hey, you asked, one of my ideas. Now here you go.
Oh yeah, I was listing off characters. I was like, well, we could do this, and oh my gosh, we did it, like just blah 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 blah. And that the poor producer just kind of like sitting there going like, a what?
You mentioned like farming game like Harvest Moon.
Mhm.
I'm pretty sure you already know about Stardew Valley.
I've never played Stardew Valley. I need
What?
to.
Seriously?
I
Wow.
need to super badly. It's one of those like, like Stardew Valley is just basically like if Harvest Moon was streamlined because you get sprinklers and everything. But I guess
Yeah.
that really like that part of me that's like, I wish I had sprinklers in Harvest Moon, and then I get grumpy. I worked all that time, and now I got to start over on another one, and I get grumpy. Not like I didn't buy it and download it, and it's staring at me on my desktop, but
Right.
It's also just finding time to like sit down with a farming game because like once I'm like, oh, I'm gonna get into a game, I get into it. I have notes on the wall. I'm like, okay, on this time, this is the optimal strat for farming games, which is so silly. But like, I'm trying not to. I'm fighting the urge to just like, oh man, maybe I'll just like play a little bit. Play a little bit doesn't exist for me. It is finish it or don't.
Yeah. So I got a gaming suggestion for you.
Oh.
Oh, actually, a game rather. I just started today, and so and I heard about this on accident. So it was another YouTube channel that I support, and it was mentioning this game. I'm like, I never heard about this game before. So I'm a huge Power Rangers fan, right? And like the Super Sentai and stuff like that. There's a game called Chroma Squad, and it's an indie title. So basically, it's heavily inspired by Power Rangers, but it's like a tactical RPG. But you play the part of like the 5 teenagers, and they transform and everything. But this is a series production, so you buy cameras, you buy like equipment. You have to grow your audience because each episode is you as and your squad as a Chroma Squad, and y'all are actually battling the minions and then the boss, but you have to like finish it a certain way. Like you have to finish the battle in a certain way. Like,
whoa.
So like the finishing blow, if you do it and it completely kills off the boss, then your audience is plus 50. And then at the end of the episode, it'll tell you how much money you earned, and then you use that money to buy more equipment, more cameras, whatever your salary is, a marketing team. You can purchase a marketing team, like to market the show and stuff like that. So to the point where it makes you forget that you're actually producing a show. And then because you can actually, tweak your mech as well, like the colors and equipment and all the other stuff. So I feel like on the artistic side, I think that would take up a good bit of your time. And it's on the Switch too, by the way.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, let me find a pen. I'm gonna type it on my phone. Ignore as I Chroma Squad?
Chroma Squad. That's
okay.
CHROMA and Squad.
I got it. You saved it.
Yeah. And I played a little bit
cool.
this
You don't
morning,
want me to
right?
finish any work this weekend is what I just heard.
I started this morning and I literally had to force myself to stop. I was like, I'm not getting anything done today. So let me stop. So I played like the first 15, 20 minutes of it. We will be in the same boat. We'd definitely be in the same boat. It must
have been us playing the whole time. It wouldn't have been a drawing stream. It would have been
us playing Chroma Squad. Yeah.
Stream.
And that's a good idea. I should stream that. I should stream some Chroma Squad. But to me, it was so good. And the retro music. The retro music is just like, that what captures you. And I was like, dang, I bought it on Steam. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to put it on my Switch. So that way I have, if I'm going somewhere and I'm traveling, I can play Chroma Squad and listen to the music and just play the game that way. So Um,
Okay.
so going back to like your
That sounds
version
good
of gaming.
though. I can't wait.
See, it got you excited. It's only
Hmm.
$15 too, by the way. I'm just making it worse.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So it's a steal. My goodness. Okay. Yeah. I'm not finishing work this weekend. Thank you.
So, it, so you say Harvest Moon and games like that. Now, do you consider yourself like a? You say you're a comfort gamer. Well, for most people, you know, we call those casual gamers. So, you know, like people that just pick up the sticks and play something to just relax and chill out or do whatever. Um, what about retro games? Like retro games or past retro games? Do you see any games in the future besides the one I mentioned that you're like, you know what, that'd be very cool to play?
Oh goodness. I'm like really out of the loop for games. I'm trying to think, is there one that I've been looking at?
Mm-hmm.
I I don't know. For future games, I'm not sure. I would like to go back and play like all the games that people are like, oh, this is like a classic video game that changed the industry. This was the first introduction of like I've never played the first Resident Evil. I haven't played
Okay.
any of the like I haven't played scary games or anything. I enjoy watching them. I have not played them on my own. So I would really like to get a chance to have those experiences and kind of understand on a deeper level than just kind of watching the video essays and going like, that's very fun. Wow. Like I would like to have my own experience with a lot of these games. Silent Hill. Um,
Oh wow, Silent Hill.
oh, fast. I haven't gotten a chance to like experience a lot of these games that people are like, oh, this got me into gaming. Like this is what like this was a start for me. And since I kind of was removed from that whole element, I want to see why, and I want to see like what in these games had people go like this is my everything. This is my whole life. This is my ride or die. So I want to experience a lot of games that are like, oh, this defined the gaming industry or changed it and put it on its head, and it also was the reason I got into games because
Yeah.
I was very like Animal Crossing. My parents were not super into video games and they didn't quite understand it. So when I got a DS and I got like a GameCube, they kind of just purchased the cheapest games they could find. So I never really played like Legend of Zelda. I had one Mario game. I had Mario Sunshine, and I had no idea how to play it. I just finished like my first Pokemon game recently. I'd never played through a Pokemon game before.
Wow.
Um,
Okay.
so that was really because I like oh my gosh, it's the one set in like England. I forget which one that is. It's not anyone's like super favorite
Mm-hmm.
that I'm aware of. But I remember like I played it. It's like updated graphics. It's pretty, and it's the people going like, oh well, actually, this is the meta, and this is how you play it. No, you don't know this character. You don't know that this like character is this. I don't know all the Pokemon names either, so I was just kind of calling them funny names.
Yeah.
So I just was like, oh,
Um.
it's Doodle. It's Doodle, and I just named my little like I named my little turtle Doodle. So every turtle I saw was then Doodle. So I have a little bit of catching up to do with everyone else. But balancing that with work is kind of the hardest part. I wish I'd gotten that ability when I was like I was younger and in school and coming back from school and getting to just do that. Because now just kind of trying to make up for what everyone else kind of got to do in that like free time after school, I didn't. So finding that time around taxes and work is just kind of difficult.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I think for me, I do play a lot of video games. That was something that occupied a lot of my time. So for me and my older brother, we're 11 years apart. So when he went off to college, it was just me, and I'm a country boy. So I grew up in the country. It was just me. If I wasn't outside, I was playing video games. That's what I was doing. I was occupying myself. So I fully understand where you're coming from there, and that's an interesting approach for you to say, hey, if I'm gonna pick up a game, I want to pick up a game that revolutionized the gaming industry as far as like the genre is concerned. Like Resident Evil is not a
Yeah.
bad pick at all. Silent Hill, not a bad pick at all. I will say go back a little further though. Another gaming suggestion for you. And you love Dragon Ball Z, so I think this is right up your alley. If you haven't played it already, Chrono Trigger, you should play that.
I have not played that. Let me write it down.
Yes, Chrono Trigger. Now, once you Google that and you see the box art, you be like, this art looks familiar. And if you think Akira Toriyama, you are absolutely correct. To me, that I think Chrono Trigger is the first game that had multiple endings depending on what you did in the game, and it's an RPG. It's a old school turn-based RPG, and it's probably one of the greatest games ever made. And I'm not just saying that based off of my opinion, but that's just like universally standard between Chrono Trigger and Final Fantasy VI. RPG wise, it's probably two of the greatest RPGs ever made. But Chrono Trigger is
my list is ever expanding.
It is. Chrono Trigger is gonna take some time because it's like once you beat it, that's just one ending that you got. So you're gonna have to go back and play the game again and actually make a different decision this time to get another ending, and then you're still not done. I think it's like 12 endings, I think. Maybe.
Wow.
Yeah, this is Super Nintendo. This is Super Nintendo way back when. Like the 90s. So
you want me to get no work done ever again.
Nah.
You want me to never
Coincidentally though, Chrono Trigger is not on Switch. I will tell you that. It's not on the Switch. So it was something you would have to download on Steam. And it's like maybe like $8-9 or something like that. Chromo Squad, however, I can't help you because that's on Steam and it's on Switch.
Yeah, there's no excuse for me. It's the like, instant download kind of thing.
Yeah, so yeah, my bad.
It's good. I do need to take more breaks. I, for a long time, could be potentially classified as maybe a little tiny bit of a workaholic. So finding things and taking time out is good. Where I'm not just I am constantly drawing. It is like if you were ever to bet, you can bet that I am drawing at any point, like right now. So finding other things outside of drawing, because drawing has been kind of my identity for a really long time. So finding other things that I like and enjoy outside of it is kind of that new, like my mid-20s quest. Like that's kind of what I'm aiming to do.
Yeah, no worries. Now, when you say workaholic, like, do you mean like just solely drawing and storyboarding? Because if it's something you enjoy, is it really work?
Oh, I say workaholic because it was detrimental to my health at one point.
Okay.
But it's not like a bad thing. It's like I know a lot of people be like, I'm such a workaholic. Like, oh no, it was not good, and I would never recommend anyone to kind of gone through it. At one point, I did my thesis, my animated thesis during COVID, and I was given a very small team, so I would be up for 4 to 5 days at a time, editing, animating. I wasn't sleeping. I was hardly eating. And I, like, for a good portion of time, if I like had an idea right before I was supposed to sleep, I could not sleep until I finished it. Like an illustration, a comic, you name it. I'm much better now, but it's one of those, like, really early on, I was kind of, what's the word? Rewarded for kind of just kind of putting in that extra work and kind of not caring about my health. But at a certain point, like, I was miserable. I was doing what I loved, but I was miserable. And that was kind of, I'd entered my first 3 industry jobs all at once. And I was like, oh, well, I'll just do all of it at once, which was just not good for me because I was starting to not love the thing that I loved. Without drawing, I don't know what I would do with the rest of my life. Now I'm like ecstatically happy. I love everything that I'm getting to do. All the people that I've gotten to meet, all these fun things that I'm getting to do. But I had to find that balance and understand that, like, being happy and working were two different things. I can be happy and not work. Like, my happiness doesn't have to be linked to my work, or like how many jobs I was doing, or what I was drawing, or anything like that. So it was kind of unlearning like stuff that was indirectly like reinforced with school and reinforced with like social media. So I didn't take any time off, but because I had to pay bills still. But I had that kind of hard reset of like, oh, I want to be happy, and I want to be happy with what I'm doing and not sit there miserable through something I love doing. Because if I was miserable doing my webtoon or doing animatics now, I would lose that joy that I get from other people finding joy in it.
Mm-hmm.
And then what's the point? If I'm not happy doing it, or at least trying to be happy, then if anyone enjoys it, I don't understand their joy.
Right. Yeah, that's one thing I have learned along the way with meeting artists and researching and stuff like that, is that especially with manga artists from like early days, like Tagashi with Yu Yu Hakusho and Hunter x Hunter, and how Hunter x Hunter is on constant hiatus because Tagashi doesn't feel well. Like, he's in constant pain because he has back issues and he has to draw like laying flat, like on his back and like drawing. And then it just kind of like, you know, what that was back then. And I really learned, and how I researched it. There's an anime called Bakuman, like Bakuman, which it is a comedy series and it's a little bit of drama too. And I know it's about these two kids. One is really good at writing and the other one is really good at drawing. And they're trying to get their manga off the ground. But one of the kids, he made a declaration to someone that he really, really liked. And he said, listen, we will be together once my manga gets serialized and go out there. And that was his hope. That was his goal. Like, this is what I'm going to do. But there was a point in time where he really got sick. And like, he just kind of like, he passed out. He was in the hospital.
Yeah.
And he had to slow down and stuff like that. So I fully understand, overstand even. Yeah, you got to take care of yourself too in the process. And I'm gonna pick your brain a little bit.
Yeah.
Sometimes I do see artists have like a little black book like in their possession. I've seen a few. Do you have that little black book, like to, you know, get some sketches in? Like, say if you have something in your head, you just draw something down.
My little black book is my iPad most of the time. So if I were to like all my messy notes across my iPad, I just have sketches all over it. But if I am going out and about, I don't carry a sketchbook with me, because I'm trying to be in that moment. And if you give me the outlet to draw in a quiet moment, I will just draw. So I like being there and experiencing things, because I feel like there's a certain point where you can get too caught up in drawing and trying to always be drawing that you forget that you need to watch movies, you need to live life, you need to have experiences to be able to tell stories, because you can't really tell a story of just sitting there working. That's not really a story.
Yeah.
So I think having those life experiences and being able to step away is really important. And it can be frustrating because a lot of people, it's very hard to draw every day. But I think a lot of that frustration comes from they want to draw perfectly every day. I think those sketchbooks, those little black books, I think are good for like getting the wiggle. I call it getting the wiggles out, where it's the like you're having trouble drawing a circle today, so just draw a bunch of circles. All my sketchbooks, all my like physical sketchbooks, they're not pretty. They're all torn up. But it's just because I don't want to sit there and worry about my practice being beautiful. So that's also kind of the reason I don't carry the sketchbook around, is I tear my sketchbooks up because I put stickers in them. I put whatever. I don't treat it like a piece of fine art because it keeps me from experimenting and messing up.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think people need that separation and to feel free to mess up and not feel like the urge to, if I'm not drawing right now, I'm wasting time, which is wrong. You're not wasting time. You're just doing something else.
Right. Got you. And would you say like, drawing, art pieces, is that your place of peace? That kind of like calms you down, like if there's a stressful day, even though that's like part of your job, like just there's illustrating. Is that like a de-stressor for you?
Oh yeah, my work and my stressor is also my de-stressor, but it's usually based on the subject matter.
Right.
If I'm doing like, say it's like a commission, I'm doing commissions through the day. My reward to myself is drawing something silly from the webtoon, or just drawing a comic that I want to draw, and that just kind of is a nice de-stressor of like I can make these decisions and not be told what to do, which is my favorite thing. Which is why I want to go back into doing art direction. But, leading a team is expensive, and I need to get a team.
Yeah. Great. And I have one more question as you're finishing up. So, to the listeners out there are two pictures there's one up top above me and one below me, and one below Neil. So, I will say these two art pieces is what caught my attention. Like I was just walking by and I bust a U-turn. I was like, whoop, and I just turned around, and that's what started this conversation. So Neil, what was your inspiration on these two art pieces that I have above me and below you?
Ooh, okay. So I had never drawn like mechs before.
Yeah.
And my boyfriend's birthday had been coming up, and I was like, well, he'd always asked if I wanted to draw something for him, I would. So I drew him a Daruma doll, like sumo wrestler tank mech, and he bought it for his birthday. I think birthday for Christmas, I forget. And the look on his face, I was like, is it okay? Is it good? He goes, you need to do mech stuff. You need to draw these. Yeah. So I was, okay, cool. And I was just kind of sitting down there, and I just really like bunnies and like the bunny girls. So I was like, oh, a bunny girl mech would be really cool. And then the other one was, I really liked that idea of a big, scary, adorable tank. I'm always so interested by like machinery and kind of how people can make them have so much personality, even though they can't really emote.
True. I mean, technically, I feel like you can have emotions out of a mech, because this is what really caught my attention. For me, because I do love mechs. It's not like my top tier as far as like anime genre is concerned, but when I do see stuff that's like super unique, and like what I saw with yours, that's when I started asking questions. I was like, is there a future series maybe? Is there a future webtoon maybe in the works?
I would love to. I have like 5 more illustrations of these tank girls in the wings that I need to finish.
Yeah.
I would love to. It's just finding anyone else who'd be willing to join in and help me, because if you ever commission somebody, most of the time on their do's and don'ts, like on their don'ts list is like no machinery or mechs.
Yeah. Okay.
So I kind of just like, oh, I want to do that. So I just decided to one day, which is kind of how a lot of stuff goes for me. I just go, oh man, I just want to do it, and I do.
So like with your team, I'm sorry. With your team, if it's is it your team of artists, or is it a team of artists and writers?
Currently, my little team is my boyfriend and I, and he is my writer. He's the writer for all of like our stories. We have a pilot that we're working on right now because I've missed animating. So we have kind of that anti-hero, like an anti-hero pilot kind of coming up in the wings. But he's a fantastic writer. He went to school with me and did game design, and he was really good he focused in environment. So he has a lot of background in building stories from you're like from environmental things, so you can tell a story without just going like the beginning of the story is blah, 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 blah. So you can tell stuff and put in all that extra work for people like to see it in the environment and to see it in how people move and act. So he's been doing a fantastic job with that. I would love to have like a full actual team. My last actual team was during my thesis, and my thesis was a nightmare because it happened during COVID.
Yeah.
So that wasn't anyone's fault. But I do miss art direction, because some of my favorite things when I was directing was how much a film can change based on having more people's visions input into it. Because I can come in with a vision and decide like, I want it this way and no one else. But I think it's very stale to do that when you could just have other people with different experiences, different takes on a character, and have it grow into something way past what your own like mental limitations and own background could do. So I think that's fun and cool.
Yeah. Hey, that's great. That's great. Yeah. So so we're with your current art piece right now. And what's the name of your main character again for Challenger?
Conan Marwood.
Conan Marwood. Now that Conan as like Conan, or Conan as in Conen?
Conan as in like the barbarian.
Okay.
He's my favorite guy. I love him. We have a voice actor for him.
Okay.
A bunch of I spoil this character. I do animations. I do animatics. I spoil him. we have a fantastic voice actor. Oh yeah, we have a couple trailers on our YouTube of Conan and his dad, and they are kind of Momi animated. They're the comic pages kind of with slight motion to them and voice acting, and our voice actors are they're crazy good. I don't know what to do. I was blessed. I truly was blessed in like getting the cast we have and their love for these characters and the connections they have with them. So I'm really spoiled. I found them all in such a fun and interesting way. I would love for this series to take off, because I would love to spoil all of my voice actors to get animations and to be able to go like, do you just want to go to a convention? People want to meet you as Conan Marwood. I would love that. That's the dream. But yeah, I spoil him. Our voice actor is Joshua David King, who also voices Unicorn Cream Cookie from Cookie Run Kingdom. And their range is fascinating. If you know Cookie Run Kingdom and you hear that the Unicorn Cream Cookie voice, that compared to Conan's voice are two very different things, and it's crazy to get to see that range and kind of hear these characters come to life. Because I think it was one word in the demo, in like a home test demo that we got of Joshua David King, where we heard like it was like a hello, and they said it in just such a specific way that I went, "That's him! Oh my gosh, that's him! That's Conan." So we had called up Joshua David King, and we were like, "Can you do that voice, but like the whole time?"
Yeah.
And perfect. I'm truly spoiled by like the voice actors, other artists that I've met that are helping us with coloring now, because I can't do it all by myself. Concept artists that we've met. I'm truly spoiled, and I really put a lot into this so that people so this can be one of the things that like takes off, because there's so many talented people that deserve a pat on the back for what they've contributed to it. But I am a yapper.
No. You got to advertise that thing as much as you can. And I know after you're doing the finishes touches, can you tell the listeners how can they get in contact with you? How can they follow your webtoon, and how they can read your webtoon?
Okay. Well, across almost all social media, Instagram, Twitter, X, YouTube, I am Neil Illustrator, or Neil _ Illustrator. But if you put in Neil Illustrator, you should be able to find me. It's the same on Webtoons, and if you look up Covenant 13, you should be able to find our favorite redhead here. I think we're on chapter 13. Shockingly enough, I think that's what's getting posted next month is chapter 13.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm kind of uniformly the same name across most most things. If you ever need to contact me for drawing stuff, I have on any of my socials, I have a link tree that has commission stuff. I also do conventions. That's how you found me.
Indeed.
I like getting to chit chat and yammer with people because I'm kind of in my own little enclosure with not many people to talk to, and I kind of talked the ear off of my boyfriend a lot already. So more people to yammer to, especially about Covenant. I'll never say no to Covenant 13. I'll never say no to.
Indeed. I basically I'm looking up your stuff right now. So I just subscribed.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm gonna definitely read number 1 of Covenant 13. And wow. I'm looking at it right now.
I will say it's not like a normal webtoon. It is not a slice of life. It is action. There's some horror elements in it as well, and it's fully seamless, so we don't have any white space or breaks.
Yeah.
To stay in the action, and we can kind of keep stuff rolling forward, which is only a problem when we now have to try and get it to print because there are no page like breaks, so that can be a touch of a problem. But yeah, we kind of put a lot into Covenant 13 because there's just been so many special people on the project, and I would love to kind of break past the fandom space and be able to kind of cultivate a fandom of my own. I know people would love, like, it's kind of just getting people to, like, I know they would love him if they met him. They just need to read about him and see him more for them to be like, oh my gosh, it's Conan. But that's my own personal stuff. I think everyone will love him, but it's just because I spoil him. I'm also the one who tortures him too, so it's only fair.
It's only fair. You're right. It's only fair, man, because main character have to have some kind of turmoil and to make it interesting. And yes, for the listeners, I do have her Instagram handle right at the top, y'all, at Neil_illustrator. So go ahead and give her a follow. Go ahead and check out her link tree, check out her YouTube channel, check out the webtoon. And also, if you want some commissions, and especially with this artwork I have above me and below Neil, she also does that as well. Do you have anything else for the listeners out there, Neil, before we get out of here?
Oh my goodness. Let me think. If you're an artist, keep drawing, keep doing your thing. Everyone make sure that you stay hydrated and don't overwork yourselves. Have fun. Remember, if you're not really having fun, stop doing that thing that's not letting you have fun.
Yes.
You don't have to be in most places if you don't want to, which is the best way that's the way I've been kind of going through my 20s. But I think that's about it. I hope everyone has like a good day and they remember to stay stellar. That's about it.
Awesome. And until next time, y'all. And again, there will be more artists on the show for the Orange Phoenix show. And I hope you guys enjoy this live session or premiere session, actually. And do not forget to hit that like and subscribe button and notification bell for more videos such as these, because with Orange Phoenix, we do talk about everything of geek culture, whether it is drawing of this nature now, pro wrestling, video games, and anime. We talk about all those things. So until next time, y'all. Peace.
Bye.